Fierce, massive, extinct. When you hear those three words, I bet your brain goes straight to the same old icons. You see the towering silhouette of a T-Rex or the massive serrated teeth of a megalodon. Maybe, if you're feeling a bit more Ice Age, you picture the shaggy tusks of a woolly mammoth. But here's the problem. We've become so obsessed with these prehistoric celebrities that we've completely ignored the rest of the guest list. Earth's history spans over 4 billion years. Dinosaurs only dominated a fraction of that time. If you dig into the dust of the ancient world, you'll find monsters so massive, so bizarre, and so terrifyingly powerful that they make science fiction look tame. These are the creatures that ruled the shadows and the seas long before and long after the dinosaurs took the throne. Today, we aren't just looking at fossils, we're resurrecting the powerful, forgotten titans that history left behind. Welcome to a world of giants you were never told about in school. Our journey begins in a place you wouldn't expect, Namibia, 280 million years ago. This was a world of freezing swamps and dark waters, and lurking in the muck was a beast that defies everything you think you know about amphibians. Meet Gaiasia genyi. If you've heard of this one, your paleontology game is on another level, because Gaiasia was only recently introduced to the scientific world. For everyone else, forget the tiny harmless frogs in your backyard. Imagine a nightmare version of a salamander. It lived like a modern crocodile, a cold-blooded ambush predator that ruled the southern reaches of the supercontinent Gondwana. For decades, scientists believed that the amphibians of this era were small fry, barely reaching a few feet in length. But then, a massive shattered jawbone was unearthed. The measurements were impossible. This creature reached a staggering 23 feet long. Its head was over 2 feet wide, shaped like a massive flat suction trap, and filled with interlocking needle-like teeth. Imagine standing at the edge of a murky prehistoric swamp. The water is perfectly still. Then, without a sound, a head the size of a coffee table breaks the surface. This 23-foot monster could swallow a human being in one explosive snap. It didn't just hunt, it dominated. If Hollywood wants a fresh face for horror, they should stop looking at raptors and start looking into the primordial mud where Gaiasia waited for its next meal. From the swamps, we move to the coastlines of the Triassic period. During this time, the oceans were a chaotic laboratory of evolution. Most people know the plesiosaurs, the ones with the long necks that look like the Loch Ness Monster. But they had a cousin that was far more sinister, yet almost never gets the spotlight: Nothosaurus. For a long time, Nothosaurus had a bit of a reputation problem. People thought they were small, lizard-like creatures, effectively the seals of the prehistoric world. But recent discoveries in China and Europe have shattered that myth. We have found evidence of giant species reaching nearly 25 feet in length. These weren't just big, they were built like pure lean muscle. Unlike the deep-sea hunters that came later, Nothosaurus was semi-aquatic. Think of it as a cross between a seal, a monitor lizard, and a great white shark. It had a long, flexible neck and a mouth packed with long, protruding teeth that acted like a cage for slippery fish. But the creepiest part? It could crawl onto the shore. Imagine you're a prehistoric creature walking along a pristine Triassic beach. You think you're safe because you aren't in the deep water. Then you see it, a predator longer than a pickup truck with a face like a demon sunbathing on the sand. It sees you, and with its powerful limbs, it begins to slide toward the surf, or worse, toward you. That, my friends, is pure nightmare fuel. Now, let's go back to the land, specifically to ancient Poland. Before the thunder lizards truly took over, there was a land titan that almost no one has heard of. It's so obscure it wasn't even officially named until 2019. Its name is Lisowicz boyani. When Polish scientists first found its massive limb bones in 2006, they literally couldn't believe what they were looking at. They assumed the bones had to belong to a long-necked sauropod dinosaur. Why? Because in their minds, nothing else in the late Triassic was allowed to be that big. But as they unearthed over 1,000 bone fragments, the truth emerged. This wasn't a dinosaur. It was a dicynodont. These were mammal-like reptiles, distant relatives of the very ancestors that eventually led to us. Lissawici was a 9-ton prehistoric tank. It stood over 8 feet tall and stretched 15 feet long. It was built like a brick wall. Its limbs were positioned directly under its body to support its massive weight, a trait we once thought only dinosaurs possessed. Lissawici was heavier than a stegosaurus and twice as heavy as an African elephant. Even the early predatory dinosaurs of the time would have thought twice before attacking this walking mountain of muscle. After the dinosaurs finally exited the stage 66 million years ago, the world became a ghost town. But life finds a way, and mammals wasted no time claiming the throne. While we often talk about the giant rhino, there's a group called the coryphonts that were the first true heavyweights of the post-apocalypse. Among them was a giant from China called Onshunitherium. Think of it as an ancient, oversized version of a hippopotamus crossed with a rhino, though it's actually more closely related to horses. This creature was one of the first mammals to ever reach the 5-ton club. We haven't found a 100% complete skeleton yet, but the pieces we do have are mind-blowing. Its skull alone was over 4 feet long, considerably larger than the skull of a modern bull elephant. Based on these proportions, scientists estimate Onshunitherium was 20 feet long and weighed nearly 9 tons. Imagine standing in a lush, prehistoric forest in ancient Asia. The ground starts to vibrate. Out of the fog emerges a beast so wide it blocks out the path, with a face that looks like a prehistoric battering ram. If you stood next to it, you would be staring straight up just to see its chin. It was a reminder that even without dinosaurs, the Earth was still a realm for giants. Finally, we have the final boss of the ocean's meat-eaters, Pontaclus. Forget the cute, chubby walruses you see at the zoo. 12 million years ago, Pontaclus was a 4-ton killing machine. Most people don't realize that modern walruses are actually massive, often triple the size of a polar bear. But they are small fry, so to speak, compared to their ancestor. Pontaclus lived during the Miocene, a time when the oceans were deadlier than ever. It shared the water with the megalodon and giant raptorial sperm whales. Unlike modern walruses that use suction to eat clams, Pontaclus was an apex predator. It had a massive reinforced skull and powerful teeth designed for crushing and tearing flesh. It was as heavy as an African elephant, but it moved through the water with the grace of a shark. It was the ultimate canine-like predator of the sea. If you were swimming in the Miocene Ocean, a shark might be the least of your worries, because a 4-ton carnivorous walrus was patrolling the depths. The T-Rex and Megalodon will always be icons, but they aren't the whole story. Earth's history is a billion-year-long epic filled with legends we've barely scratched the surface of. These forgotten giants left their footprints in the stone, ruled their domains with iron will, and remind us that our world has always belonged to the giants. Which of these forgotten monsters would you be most terrified to meet in person? Let me know in the comments. And if you're ready to dive deeper into the world that was, hit that follow button. The past is much bigger than you think.